Hey everybody, I'm Ted Drozdowski, Editorial Director of Premier Guitar, and we are here at the 2025 NAMM show in Anaheim, California, and we are starting our morning with some tone, and also with Aaron Marino. Aaron, how are you today, man?
Doing good. Doing really good today. Thanks for coming by.
Oh man, our pleasure. And it's been great actually hearing the new tube amp expander do its thing here, because that is really great tone. So tell us about this device. Get us rolling on it.
Yeah, so this is the new Waza Tube Amp Expander Core. So, we came out with the Waza Tube Amp Expander a few years back. Quite honestly, one of my favorite products that we've ever created. Basically, it's a reactive load attenuator with a whole bunch of connectivity that makes it really awesome for professional use, out in the studio, big studios, or on stage. The cool thing with the Waza Tube Amp Expander Core, we kind of distilled all of the elements that we really liked about that unit down into a much more affordable priced one, smaller unit, designed more for like the home pro studio instead of the big stage studios.
And what is this unit priced at?
$699.99 MAP here in the U.S.
Okay, cool. Interesting how attenuators have developed. I mean, I remember the birth of the Scholl's Power Soak many years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was actually the first experience with one. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. So we're talking about a reactive load kind of attenuator, right? There's two types. There's a passive one. There are out there are passive models, and there's reactive load models, right? Super important though is to kind of explain the differences between the two. So a passive load, how it works is so in a tube amplifier, right? Super important part of this is how the voltage basically moves through a tube amp into the speaker and back, right? So in a tube amp, guitar goes into the input of the amplifier, goes through all the circuits, goes through the tone stack, goes into the the power section, out to the speaker through the speaker cable. That speaker, every time I play or hit a note, it's pushing the speaker out, and that speaker also returns. So the voltage pushes it out, but when the speaker returns, it actually moves voltage back down that speaker cable, back up into the amplifier. In a tube amplifier, it's super important. That's what they call basically negative feedback, right? And that voltage actually drives back all the way to the very first circuit in the tube, causes it to distort more, create a little bit more tone, more harmonics, more character, all the stuff that us as guitar players really like.
And that's the stuff that you're enhancing here with this device.
Well, I'm allowing that to be a part of the signal. So in a passive load, what happens is that voltage goes out, pushes the speaker out. In a passive load, what happens though is that speaker comes back in, that voltage is dissipated, and it isn't allowed to make it back into the amplifier. So the negative feedback though is an important part of the character and tone of a tube amplifier. It's it's literally like half the voltage, electricity coming back into the amp. So it's super important to be able to keep that connection happening so that you get all the tones. So a lot of times what will happen is that in the past with the passive loads, people would be like, oh great, I was able to turn the tone or the volume down, but my amp just doesn't feel right, doesn't sound right. And that's because it's not getting that negative feedback back into the system. So with a reactive load, it allows you to be able to do that in the right way so that the amp feels exactly the same way that I do when I'm playing it, whether or not it's a speaker or whether or not I'm running through a DAW or through the output of to a mixer.
Right, and that's an important thing, which I hope you'll show us, how it is when you're working through an amplifier and a speaker or whether you're going through a DAW.
Totally, yeah. And like I said, we have it set up here where we can show off both sides of it, so I can show you what it's like when you're running through the speaker out, as well as running through, right now we're running through these PreSonus monitors here.
Cool. Before we get to that, why don't you just talk us through the control set?
Yeah, so check it out. We take a look over here. On the very left side, we start off, this is the reactive load side over here, right? So this is another important part for connecting, with the amplifier for it to work correctly, right? A lot of times, different types of devices that are out there that do something similar, they have just a single, kind of ohm rating, or and that makes it a challenge because depending on what kind of amplifier you're using, it can have a difference whether or not it's connected to a 112 or a 412. Kind of what we did. So on the bigger unit, we have basically a resonance control and a presence control that allows you for multiple options to dial in which speaker you're connected to, whether or not it's an 8-inch speaker, 10-inch, 412s, different types of 412s, a 212, 112s. All of that makes a difference and you can dial it in. What we did find though, for most players that are out there, they didn't necessarily need all that much control over that. So we kind of simplified it down to either a combo setup or a stack. And just to simplify it for everybody, that tends to be the most popular models that are out there that people are using amplifier-wise. And like I said, the idea on this is that it's, we're taking, what is considered, kind of a traditional, tube amplifier design and tube amplifier circuit, allowing it to kind of modernize that for, perfect use within, a small studio, home recording and stuff like that, right? And like I said, this is going to allow me to basically set it up so that the amplifier plays the way that I want to, reacts the way that I want to, and gives me what it is that I love about my amplifier. Moving on from there, though, we go over to, and we have the option to do different rigs, so I can save my presets for stuff, and we'll get into that when we get into the software.
Okay.
We go over here to the air field. This is something that we added. It's basic technology that we have from our Waza Air headphones that we made, right? It's a Waza Air headphone amplifier. Basically, we have this spatial technology. We've made it so that the idea is that when you're playing with headphones, you want a little bit of space around you, right? Otherwise, it sounds like the speaker's like right up on your ear, and it can keep kind of jarring to play that way and practice that way. So with the spatial technology that we use, it just kind of opens it up, makes it feel like you're sitting in the room with an amp instead of having the amp like stuck right to your ear when you're playing. And so you have the ability to adjust it. It creates a nice ambiance around you. Makes it feel good when you're playing, and makes you feel more comfortable, in your own headspace.
Yeah, much more realistic experience.
Yeah. And then from there we have the line out that goes here to the line out and speaker out, right? Speaker out is going to the speaker that we have connected down here, and then the line out is running through mixer into the monitors over here that we can hear. And then I also have a phone out that's separate here that I can control my level, if I want to. And then this is just a save button here for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Do you want to talk about the? Why don't we start with the amp first? Does that sound good? And we're playing through a.
Right now we're running through this Archon PRS amplifier here. It's a 50-watt amp. If you notice, if you're looking over here at the level, you'll see that I've got the master volume cranked really, really high. It's like over 6, 7, on this amp. Realize that on a tube amplifier, right? The power section of an amp, right? You really start as you turn up the a tube amp. You really start to get the character and the tone. Because you're starting to drive the power section to add harmonics, add character, to the sound. The problem is a lot of times when you have a master volume amplifiers, most people you'll see them, they're turning the master volume is barely up, and it's already too loud for the listening environment that they're in, right? And you need a way to control that. The problem is that if I turn the amplifier up to where it starts to sound good and where it starts to really give me the feel and the vibe that I'm looking for, that sweet spot. Yeah. At that point, it's usually way too loud for
ears are bleeding.
Yeah, I mean, I used to playing gigs at like the Whiskey or the Roxy. I'd have a Marshall that was set up at 3 or 4, and they'd be like, it's too loud, turn it down, And that's so having it at 6 or 7 like this would be absolutely out, no. So the cool part though is that I can do that though. I can turn that up, find the sweet spot for the amplifier, but then I have the ability with with this core here to actually control my level and turn it down. So even though I could have this all the way dimed all the way up, and then I'd still be able to shake this down to an easy listening level, with, down to here, So it's going to be super quiet if I'm practicing where I said. I can also use the headphone out if I want, and I can go silent.
Right. Even at that level, it sounds very dimensional.
Right, totally. And I don't even have to have the speaker connected if I want to, too. I could just run the head straight into this and then end the headphone out or straight out to the PA if I want to. Okay.
Great. Well, let's talk about the interaction with the DAW.
Yeah, okay, let's check it out. Again, out of the Waza tube amp expander core, basically once I have control over it there, I can send that signal out and I can run in, to a PA system or a DAW. It can actually be used as a USB audio interface on its own if you want to do it. But typically you're going to see people, they already have their own audio interfaces. So, we have line outs that will take straight over to the, to a mixer and then straight off into the DAW. From there, though, we can get into the software section of it. We did pull the same section of software that we have from the Waza Tube Amp Expander, the flagship version, and so we have all the effects that we had. So there's an effects loop. So if I want to add effects in post after, let's say I have a vintage tube amplifier that doesn't have an effects loop, I have the ability to add effects to it if I want to. So I can add delay, I can add reverb. Here, I can show some of that off too if you want.
You got it. Yep. And I'm going to hold this.
Yeah. So turn this up a little bit. So here we go. On the effects loop, I can add in effects. So on the side, I've got an MD500 or modulation pedal, and I've run that through the effects loop, so I can add that. and realize that this is all done, in post after the power amp section of the amplifier. If I want to, I can add delay to this. There's a built-in delay module. If I want, there's even compression and reverb if I want to. So I have, these different blocks that I can add some stuff, and that goes out both out the speaker output as well as the line out. We do have a new cab mic section here that's built into the app itself now. So I have the options here where I have two sides. I have basically a mic modeling and cabinet modeling section as well as an IR loader. And in this side, I have basically here we go for the presets side over here. I have the options of moving between different types of cabs. So if I want, I can do 412 Brit stack. I can do, let's go down here. Let's say I want to do a 112 Deluxe, right?
All right.
I can click on that and change that out. I have the ability to adjust mics that I have. I have two mics that I can move and change between. So I have a 57 right now, and let's see here, let's move this to be an 87 here, right? And I can actually drag that around, place them where I want to mic up, the amplifier or the cap. If I want to, I can do stuff like this too. Is I can also go into the IR side. I can load my own IRs. Popular thing right now is everyone's got, they're trading. They're like trading cards at this point, and everyone's got their own IRs that they love, and I get it. It's something you can personalize your sound with. The cool thing that we did is, and I've seen this in other software IRs, but in a hardware one, we actually have the ability to load two at the same time if I want to. So I can go in here and load them. I come with the unit. We have selection IRs already preloaded in here, a bunch of them for people to pick from. And then I have the ability to actually do two of them at one time. And then once I have two of them loaded, I actually have the ability to phase between the two and kind of time align them together so I can dial them in to the way that I would like them. And it opens up the possibilities for even experimentation with this type of stuff. Stuff that normally would in real life would be kind of difficult to try to do this type of stuff.
And here it's just a couple of keystrokes.
Right, exactly. It makes it really, really, really convenient for, like I said, it's just modernizing how we use a tube amplifier these days. A couple other things we added is we added this mix assist button over here, right? And with this, basically what it's doing is it's giving me the ability to kind of dial in and sculpt the sound for me based on, just from me playing. There's a couple of different options that you have. But the idea is that not everybody is an engineer and knows what frequencies to dial out and what to cut and what to add. This kind of dials it in for it. So if you check it out, this is what it sounds like with it off here. Real quick, let me do this. We'll turn off just so you can hear.
The pure tone.
Yeah, just the pure tone. Let's turn that off. We'll turn off the effects loop for a second here. And we'll come back over here, right? Sorry. So with this off, right, it's going to give me the full range. You can hear the low. But I turn it on. Just tightens up the sound, gives it, makes it a little bit more friendly for sitting in a mix in a much better way.
How's the transient level effect? Can you give it a little bit more?
Yeah.
See what happens?
Again, versus with this off, right? It's going to be. Obviously a fuller frequency range, but that's not necessarily what you need when you're trying to mix it. Usually in a mix, you're going to be cutting out spots so that it'll sit, correctly in the mix. This basically kind of gets that, much closer to where it needs to be just out the gate. So.
Ah, very versatile, very functional. So, Aaron, is the Waza Tube Amp Expander Core available now?
It will be ready in about 2 weeks.
In about 2 weeks.
Yeah, start shipping. Yeah, so it should be technically it's available. You can start ordering now. Should be able to get one hopefully very, very soon.
Cool. Thank you so much for being with us, man. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys for coming out. I always appreciate you guys and love what you guys do. Read your stuff every month. So.
Thank you. That does my heart good. And thank you for tuning in. And please keep watching for more NAMM videos from NAMM 2025. Please click on our YouTube channel, dig it, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.